Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
It's really encouraging to know there are people that are standing up for the truth and are speaking out, and that there's a source of information that isn't, can I say CBC? So.
Well, I wish I could say that BC's public health officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry, has had a change of heart. Or maybe that's a bad phrase to say it. I wish she had come to her senses when it comes to ordering the unfair restrictions that ban all religious gatherings across British Columbia. But no, still, we have malls that are packed for Christmas. It's Buggy to Buggy and Costco for Christmas. But if people try to gather to remember why the word Christ is in Christmas, that makes you selfish and a danger to society. And it's not that bureaucrats like Dr. Bonnie Henry can't do the right thing and make adjustments to what they've ordered. They could say that the churches, the mosques, the synagogues are in fact essential to those who feel they need to attend them to be spiritually fed. Although Henry has recently extended the events and gathering mandate to January 8th, 2021, she has made some revisions, or the Public Health Office has. Recently, indoor activities like dance class were banned, but now there's been an exception for children to attend such things. Adrian Dix came out and said that for families, they can now gather with their grandparents as long as those grandparents provide childcare. But unfortunately, for the grandparents who are physically unable to care for children, they're just tough out of luck. But there's no grace that has been given for places of worship. In fact, according to CTV, when Dr. Henry was asked about the churches that are starting to open up despite her forbidding them to do so, like we covered at Riverside Calvary Chapel in Langley on rebelnews.com, Dr. Bonnie Henry's response was, faith is not a building. I'm sorry, is this Canada or communist China? The whole reason we have the right to religious freedom and the right to religious expression is so that the government doesn't overlord us and tell Canadians how to worship, who to worship, or that they have to worship at all. No grace at all from Bonnie Henry. So here I am standing in front of another church who has happily complied with many COVID-19 safety measures in the past, including doing so today, social distance seating, hand sanitizer, and more. But they're also saying today that enough is enough. Oaklands Bible Chapel in Victoria, BC has opened their doors for the second week in a row, despite being told that they would be fined today if they do. So far, I see no bylaw. I see no police, but Rebel News is here to report on what happens today and speak to Pastor Dan Anderson as well. We have fightthefines.com, and if this church gets fined, our amazing legal team will be fighting those fines. So make sure you head to fightthefines.com, that was a lot of Fight the Fines, to help support us making churches be essential. We're about midway through the sermon. No bylaw, no police, contrary to what you guys were told.
I am so pleased. I am so pleased to be. We don't want to fight. We don't want this conflict. We just want to be able to worship. We want to be able to come together and freely enter our church and worship our Lord. That's what we want to do. And we are more than happy to comply with the 50-person limit, the masking, the social distancing, all to keep others safe. But it comes to a line of, we believe that it's essential that we gather as physical people at Christ's birth. It's Christmas.
I know.
When has this happened in history? That Christians, well, I guess in the world, of course, Christians are persecuted. There's underground churches everywhere. But I'm living in Canada. This is unheard of as far as I can remember.
The fear that our world is living in today is crippling people. And it's killing our communities. And it's killing our families. And it's killing our society.
All right, Dan?
All right.
You did your sermon, and no bylaw, No police officer.
Thank God. So far, I mean, that's great. We've been praying for it, and looks like they have chosen not to visit us this morning. So we're quite happy with that.
Yes, thank you for that discretion. Now, tell us what happened. Give us a little bit of the backstory. You were told that the police would be here today, right?
Yeah, we got a call a couple of weeks ago asking if we were abiding by the COVID guidelines, and we pulled up our socks a little and decided to do a little better on that and abide by all of them. And then when the latest mandate came down at the end of November, we were told nobody in the building. No more than 6 persons, just like everywhere else. That was supposed to be the thing, that there's only 6 persons to gathering limits and no large group gatherings anymore.
But the 6-person limit you're saying, but however, there's something else that is allowed to happen, more than 6 people in this church often. Do you want to explain what that is?
So when the order came down, we abided by it immediately, but then we started thinking about it, and there were some things that made us really rethink and eventually made us change our minds. And one of the biggest things was that in our building here, we have a before and after school care program that continued to run right after they made those orders. So they shut us down in our own building. We can't meet in our own building, but our before and after school care program can with there are dozens of kids and workers, and our food hamper program that works on Thursdays. We can have people in here working to do that. Why can't we responsibly be in our own building just like we were before? That was a big question we had. And then when we called the government to ask about one of our meetings, our youth meetings specifically, they wouldn't really answer us as to whether we were allowed to do that, because youth activities are allowed and at that description, but religious gatherings aren't. So we kept asking them and pressing them, and eventually they just said, like, look, you're allowed to do it as long as you don't call it a religious gathering. And we just none of this is making much sense. Like, gathering of the church is essential. It's in our name. We are the assembled ones. To be an unassembled church is to be not a church. We have to assemble. We have to gather. It's essential. It's essential for our well-being. It's essential for the community. It's essential for people's spiritual and physical health. We are social creatures that must live together. And this government disconnecting and pushing people apart is wrecking everything. And we can't stand by and watch the world and our communities be destroyed.
Oh, we complied absolutely with what we thought would be a huge pandemic. Sorry, yeah, we thought that this was going to be, I personally thought that the army was coming and that there would be body bags in the streets, and, so we shut the church. I think, I'm trying to remember if Dan the first week actually did the preaching from home on Zoom, or if I think that he may have come in here, but within a couple weeks he came in, but we kept the church closed for the duration of that particular lockdown, and then we complied afterwards with the 50 people. We had to change our services to 2 and comply with the social distancing and the masking and all of the gathering limits and things like that. But yeah, we complied for the most part, until now. We can't go to church, but I can go to the mall shopping today. I can't worship Jesus with my church family, but we can have a daycare running here 5 days a week with 30 people, but we are not to have our own people in our own building. There were too many things that started to be nonsensical to us.
Joyful and triumphant,
I think it's really exciting that people haven't come here today, but what is it like as a pastor? I imagine not everybody's on board with this in the congregation, so how have you handled that?
With a little bit of angst. Yes, not everybody's on board and not everybody agrees, and there's different things to think through, and not everybody's at the same place, same speed. I'm fine. I think everybody needs to make their own decisions for their lives. We live in a free country and a free society. People should be allowed to make free choices. And if somebody thinks it is too dangerous to be here for COVID, that's fine. I fully, respect their right and think that they should do what they believe is right, as we let everybody do what they believe is right in this country. And we believe it's right for the Church of Jesus Christ to gather in public proclamation of His Lordship and His coming every single Sunday.
Well, I think that as a Christian, I believe that the church is essential. I don't think that we as the church can function apart. I do not believe that Zoom, Dan said in his sermon last week, ask a couple who is dating if Zoom is a good substitute for actually seeing each other. It is not. How do we, how do we relate as people? We relate when we're together much more than we can relate on a screen, as good as a screen is, right? It's just not the same.
The $1,000,000 question is, has your church been associated with any outbreak or anything like that when it comes to COVID-19?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely. I don't even know anybody. Like, I know somebody in Ontario that has experienced COVID-19, but I have not met or known anybody here in the city, let alone the church, that has had this, this whole COVID-19.
Well, we have not only some good news, like John Krasinski had, we have the good news for this world.
So tell us about the fine that you were supposed to receive today.
Right. Okay. So the police did call this week. Somebody had complained that we were open last weekend, which we were, and we're planning on opening again this weekend. And so the officer was very nice, and she asked me, did you open last week? And I said, yes. And she said, are you going to be open again this week? I said, yes. And she said, do you know that's against the guidelines? I said, yes. But we have to do that. This is the right thing to do. It's essential. And we're going to be open. And they promised, or they said, then the next step for them would be to come here and give us a fine. So I fully expected that would be happening this morning, but I'm thankful I'm not in charge of history. God is, and He has better plans than I do. So I am very thankful to not have to meet with any officers this morning.
Wow. So maybe this is a little bit similar to the report at rebelnews.com for Langley, BC with Riverside Calvary Chapel. They were fined a $2,300 fine, but then the police and even the bylaw retreated the next week. So, no one really wants to be stuck in a constitutional battle or debate later on. So I hope that the right discretion is being used. And thanks for reaching out to us, Dan.
Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. It was very encouraging to know. It's really encouraging to know there are people that are standing up for the truth and are speaking out, and that there's a source of information that isn't. Can I say CBC?
We say CBC, so you can say it.
Yeah. It's just like it's nice there's still some people who are conservative and believe in real Christian value. I'm not saying that they're all Christians, but people who really believe in the Christian ethic and a God who is good and a God who is in charge of society. And people are good, and they can look after themselves and make good decisions for the people that they love and the people in their own communities. And we don't need the government to tell us how to look after the people we love.
Absolutely. At Rebel News, we're very diverse, and we believe that the right to practice your religion is essential. And so that's why we have Fight the Fines up right now, fightthefines.com. If Dan and his church or any of the congregants had received a fine today, we committed to help you with legal defense to fight those fines. So if you come across any fines like that, head to fightthefines.com. Or if you want to contribute to the awesome legal team we have just waiting to help the churches get open, please head to fightthefines.com. And I will be following up with you. I hope that this is going to happen again next week.
Well, we'll be open again next week. At least we're planning on it. God has other plans. That's fine. And I hope that the authorities have, learned, and they're going to do a little better job of letting people be people, especially at this time of year where it's already difficult for a lot of people. And just to be told you can't spend time with your nuclear family, and you can't spend time with your own church family, your own religious family. I don't know how people are going to survive that. So we're not going to be a part of that. We'll be here for people if they want to come.
All right, guys, was it a bluff? I don't know, but thank you so much to the City of Victoria, to the police out here for using your discretion and not fining these people who were completely responsible today when it comes to COVID-19 measures. Now, please head to fightthefines.com if you want to be part of our helping Canadians who are receiving tyrannical fines to fight those fines legally. And if you yourself have received such a fine, please head to fightthefines.com too.